Hi, it's Heidi from A Lively Hope. This is our slow stitch video for the week. I am nearly finished with this big long scroll. So close. I'm going to work on it a little bit while we chat. There is a neighborhood dog who is having some sort of a problem. It's just barking like crazy. But it's so nice outside, I don't want to close the window. So hopefully that is not a huge problem on your end. There's also quite a lot of construction across the street, so I may end up needing to close the window. I've been making a lot of progress on this scroll over the last few weeks. More than anything, ouch, that was a poke. More than anything, I'm kind of excited for it just to be done. I've really enjoyed working on it. But I'm also ready to move on to something else. And one of the things I have been excited to move on to, I will show you now. Oops, I just untucked that. So I've been going through bins of unfinished projects. I generally have a busier season around the holidays, October, November, December, for art galleries, art shows, and art markets. And then I try to take a break the first quarter of the year with as far as in-person events. I just find that even though they exist during that time of year, they don't generally do as well because people just aren't spending as much money then. But then in the summertime, I also do a lot of in-person events. So coming up in June and July and August, I have 4 large shows that I'll be doing, some really local and then some not as local. But so every show I seem to have some things that I plan to make that don't get done, and I have to just set them aside for the next time. And this is one of those things. I found these in a bin. I'm not sure actually what I intended for them to be. They are polyester, or not polyester, they are acrylic felt on one side and fabric on the other, which I sewed together on a machine, which is not normally how I do things. I don't know what I was intending for these to be, but as I pulled them out, I realized they would be perfect little needle books. Here's another one over here. So that obviously was something. But I decided to prep these as needle books for the upcoming markets. So I'm going to just cover them in some simple stitches. And this will be the batting. And then I will do a nicer wool felt on the inside. Let me grab one of my own. You may have seen these. I have these needle books that I personally use. And maybe that's what I intended for this to be. I don't know. So this is the idea. Just lots of simple stitches all over. Nice wool felt for sticking needles in and a closure of some kind. So that's what I'm going to be working on this week, finishing up for markets and doing for our slow stitch video. I'm planning to use, let me grab it here, I have this large tin of extra thread from when I teach or other large projects. It's never ending, slightly embarrassing, but it's fine. So I'm just going to try to use up as much as I can from this and call that good on this project. I'm not planning on doing anything super intense on these, just some additional stitches to make them look a little more finished and to kind of help them feel, whoa, kitty cat, you scared me, to feel nice in the hand when they're at the markets. This is Smudge. Can you see his tail? He really likes to sit in this window when it's open. I'm just taking a few minutes and choosing thread colors that go with the different needle books. And I'm putting the thread inside and then sticking this into a little plastic bag, which will come with me as I go to kids' lessons or move around the house. So I'm just choosing colors that I enjoy. Some teal pearl cotton, which I'll use with this. Decided to do some warm colors on this one, which is not my usual go-to. Hi and welcome. I'm going to finish this scroll today. I've been working on this, I think it's been 5 months or so that I have worked on this off and on. And I'm ready to finish it up today. I'll show you the whole thing as it's finished. But first, what I want to do is attach it to this stick I just grabbed from the yard. I probably should cut that bit off. Hold, please. Okay, I grabbed my handy little pruners. And my plan is just to attach, maybe I'll do it this way. I'm going to attach this scrap of gray fabric here and then also around the stick on the back side. It should be pretty simple. This scroll has been so enjoyable to work on, and I do feel like I could just continue adding to it forever. But I decided it was time to move on to another daily stitch project. So I'll just add it on with running stitch going this direction. It's a little bit tricky because I did not give myself enough of an end. I will keep that in mind for future projects. I just kind of dove into this when I started it a few months ago without much planning or forethought. I would definitely leave more room in the future. You can probably hear construction work and birds right outside my window. It's a lovely summer day. Okay, I'm just going to do the same thing. Put the stick in. I'm just going to do running stitch. Again, it's kind of matching up right where the first bit was. With the stick here, it's a little bit harder to load up my needle, so I might need to do just one stitch at a time. See if that adds stability now. And I've got a couple stitches in. Finished running stitch going that direction, and I'm going to add one more time. I'm just using up the thread in my needle, but also hoping to reinforce this a little bit. Of course, it doesn't need to be incredibly strong. I'm not going to be using it much. It's more just something that will be opened every so often, but I just want to make sure it's as strong as it can be. I'm just going to knot it off here. And then we can roll it all up. Make sure you can see. I've been calling this my kindness scroll. Oh, I just realized I haven't, so in some of these places I used a heat erasable pen to write out the lettering. I still need to erase that. So I will do that after I finish this video. It's been such a colorful, meditative project to work on. Here's another place where I have heat erasable pen. I wrote this whole quote. So I'll need to erase that. And I've been wondering if I need to add a button on the end. I kind of feel like I don't. I picked this blue button, but I don't really want to add a closure, I don't think. So we'll just consider that finished. And I really like that love here is on the outside, along with all these colorful stitches. So if needed, I could wrap something around it and have it be a separate piece that's holding it in place. But so far it seems to be staying pretty easily closed. I think I'll call that good. That scroll is finished. I now have a big stack of these Needlebooks, the stitching on them finished. And now I need to add the closures. So I am choosing which side I want to be the back and just attaching a piece of nice wool felt directly to the back and then a button closure on the front. This piece I might want to turn this way. Yeah, I like that better. So the button will go here, but first I need to stitch this on. I've been doing this with 2 strands of embroidery thread, stranded cotton. You want to make sure you get a long enough piece because what I've been doing is running stitch along the outer edge, blanket stitch on the inner edges, and then another running stitch. So you're going around a full round plus 1 extra edge. I will be covering up the back of this with nice wool felt. This is not nice wool felt that's on the inside, just acting as a batting. It's acrylic craft felt that I pull out of my kids' craft bins. So it works best for me to hold it this direction because I'm right-handed. And I'm just doing running stitch along this edge and keeping it, I'm not sure measurements, just inside. It's safely away from the edge so that it won't be an issue. So this line will be nice and secure. So running stitch along this edge, and then I'll blanket stitch around here, and I'll be back to show you. Just doing a simple blanket stitch around the outside of this. Now I've met up with where the running stitch started, and I have just been going over it again to really secure this edge in place. Trying to match up with the stitches that I did before, but I'm not being too particular about it. Slight wonkiness is always fine with me. And now that that is secure, I will do a few over stitches just to make sure. And then I'll knot it off on the inside. A reminder that all of this will be covered up shortly with another layer of felt, which is where the needles will actually go. Okay, so that will then wrap around and be the closure. I just need to decide where this button should go. I'm going to allow a little extra space in case it gets a little bulky. So I think about right there. I'll just use the same blue thread that I had before. Oh, Kitty jumped up. He loves this spot. Sorry, baby, I had to close the window. It's too bright. Now I just need to snip where this closure is going to go over it. Just fold this like that and add a little slit. Okay, there's that. And then I just need to add some felt on the inside. I like the idea of having kind of a surprising pop of color for the felt on the inside. So I decided to do this brightish yellow with the more subdued white and blue outside. I need to trim this edge just a little bit. Now I will bury my knot in between the layers of fabric. And do blanket stitch all the way around. I've gone all the way around the outside using blanket stitch, and I'm just returning to that first corner underneath this closure. I just did the base layers. I didn't stitch into the closure. I always like to do 3 stitches into the same hole when I go around a corner using blanket stitch. Ooh, I'm getting to the very end of my thread. I knotted a little bit. Okay. Finally got that figured out. I had split the thread without realizing it, so that was the issue. Now it's fixed and I have just barely enough thread to knot this off. And then tuck the end into the middle. I accidentally went through the outer layer. Let's try that again. There we go. That's finished. I decided to reinforce this opening for the button with some blanket stitch. And because this is only 1 layer of felt, it will have a visible knot on this side, but I have decided to be okay with that. And we'll trim it down a little bit. So this one is finished, aside from getting threads off. I think that's a really fun pop of color on the inside. And then I do have this whole stack of other ones I've been working on. Most of them have the closure part on, but I need to add buttons and then the inside felt. So I will come back and show that to you when I'm finished with all of them.